You guys, please be careful. People are out here scamming big time for people who are looking for jobs.
If you want to know how the economy's doing, don't look at the stock market. Look at what the scammers are doing. Long gone are the days of kings from Africa asking you for money so they could send you unimaginable wealth when they got their money back. No, they're they're scamming with jobs. The scam is a well-paying job now. The scam is benefits. Like what? 4-day weeks? Paid leave? Like we've gone to the point where scammers are offering better benefits than actual jobs. And the reason I knew it was fake was not because I saw the where it came from. No, I saw all this. Maternity leave, girl, come on now. We live in America. And it was remote. And it was a remote job. Ugh. And it's even funnier because had I been in any other country, this probably would not have even made me flinch. But because I live in America, the idea of a 4-day week, statutory holiday leave, maternity, paternity leave, like, girl, that sounds amazing. They're really hitting where it hurts now because why did I jump? I was like, wait, indeed. But then they know we're not stupid anymore. They know we're just desperate for a 401k.
Okay guys, so either someone is trying to kidnap me or my fake ChatGPT job is trying to manifest itself into reality. So I get a phone call yesterday and it's a man and he's like, we loved your application. We want to bring you in for an interview tomorrow. And I was like, okay, sure. He schedules me for it, gives me the address, never told me his name, never told me what the place was called, and never told me what the job was. And I was like, oh yeah, like what's the job? Who are you? And he tells me the company and he tells me the job. He's like, customer service representative. Says customer service representative so fast under his breath. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like something I'd apply for. Mind you, I'm applying for like 20 plus jobs a week and I've been widening my scope. So I hang up and I immediately go to my LinkedIn, my Indeed, and my email to see if I can find the job that I applied for because I'm like, I want to study the job description and be prepared for this interview. I cannot find it. I then Google the company, not coming up. I Googled the company and the address and finally something comes up. Somehow I dug and I got it. The website says they're a digital marketing agency, but they have the ugliest website I've ever seen. They have no LinkedIn, no Instagram, no Facebook, no social media. For a digital marketing agency, they don't have anything. When you search them up on Google, they're not like even listed as a business. They have no Google reviews, nothing. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's a small business, but their website says they've been in business for 10 plus years. So I called him back and I was like, can you please like email me the job description because I want to be prepared for my interview. And he was like, oh no, I don't actually work for the company. I'm just filling in today to do their scheduling. And I was like, okay, can someone who works for the company send me over the job description? And he was like, no, it would be the hiring manager and they're really busy. And also like, this is just a preliminary interview and they're going to be going over 2 different positions with you and seeing if either of them fit. And at that point I was just like, this is really sketchy. So I didn't even question it. I was like, okay, bye. So I look back at their website and they have like 6 clients listed and I look every single one of them up. None of them exist. They're fake. They have fake clients listed. And I was like, that's probably a major red flag. They don't have a phone number on their website. And so I Googled that guy's phone number and it's linked to a ghost kitchen. So weird. Like in the same area as where the company is located. So let me know, do you guys think that like they were trying to kidnap me, or do you think that they have a fake ChatGPT job too and they were like they just wanted to play?
Guys, I just got done with an interview and I should have done way more digging because pretty sure it was a scam. But first of all, I get on the Zoom call and there's 2 other people in my interview and I'm like, okay, whatever. One guy's literally in his car and the other girl's on the couch and I'm like, what is happening? And for a second I thought they worked here. Nope, they were also getting interviewed. I was like, what? And the guy literally goes, I did a lot of research on your company and I found out this was a scam, so thank you for your time, bye, and just ends and drops out of the call. So then he like is saying hello to me, like the guy who was doing the interview, and it's like, I don't know what that was about, and I'm just like, red flag. And so then the other lady who is, I guess, being interviewed, he is like, oh, like, what's your name? Like, blah, 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 your Zoom title is emergency phone or something. And she, like, said it, and then she dropped out of the call. So it was just me and this guy who is interviewing me. And I'm, like, researching this company even more, like, while he's talking, because I'm like, red flags are just going off left and right. And I applied for an event coordinator position. This man was talking about how I would start out entry level, and then I would be promoted to account manager, and then I could be a branch manager, and then I can open my own branch wherever I want. And I literally, like, after he said his whole spiel, I was like, he asked me if I had any questions. I'm like, yeah, I'm honestly kind of confused. Like, I applied for an event coordinator position, and what you're describing is nothing close to that. And so I just don't think, like, what I want aligns with what you guys are offering, unfortunately. So I don't think this will be for me. And I, like, said it kindly, because I was like, what the heck? And he, like, immediately got off the phone. He was like, okay, have a good New Year, bye. And I was just like, oh my God. So then I did some digging. Apparently it's an MLM, which I didn't know what that was. I had to do, like, this company has done a great job at hiding that they're a scam, because there were so many good reviews, but then if you, like, kept digging and went on Reddit and, like, kept going deeper, it got worse. And I was just like, thank God for that first guy to say something that, like, put the red flag off in my head. And I hate that I was duped on a Thursday afternoon, but I guess that's the life of being unemployed, trying to find a job. But that was just insane. So watch out, people. There's so many scammers on LinkedIn. It's ridiculous.
Hi, lovely people. So as I stated in the last video on this topic of 17 people missing in Atlanta after a job interview, I have not seen any news articles about this story. Now, in the last video, if you actually watched long enough to hear me say this, I mentioned that I suspected that we were either seeing this game of real life telephone where one person has a story and then they tell it and then someone else tells the story differently. And then we have these multiple stories that sound similar, but they're a bit different, even though there was just one story to begin with. Or that people were just digging up some older stories about people missing after a job interview. And in the last video, the real point of that was not to say that this story is true, right? It was to highlight that no, I'm not seeing news about this particular story that these folks are running with all over TikTok, and that Tasha K and Tisa Tells and others are promoting or have been promoting. However, these instances do happen. And y'all know that I've been in the recruitment and HR space, and I have seen a lot of different job scams and attempts at job scams. So there's a lot of different suspicious activity that can happen when you are on the job market, especially in times that are more difficult. Now, on this topic of people possibly digging up old stories and running with a new story and us getting to the 17 people in Atlanta, I have been still looking out for news stories about this because I'm very curious of whether this is true, because we have seen incidents where people will use all types of scams, including job scams, to lure people away or to just scam them out of their personal information or money. Now, I did find this article, and this article is titled 29-year-old woman missing after job interview in Lagos. And we're referring to Lagos, Nigeria, which is on the African continent. This was posted in February of this year, 2025. So February 2025. Let's read through this article. So this article from The Guardian, a very well-known source, they're saying in this article that the family of 29-year-old Nikaru Osawego, please forgive the name pronunciation, I am not from Nigeria. They're saying Nikaru Osawego is in distress following her disappearance after attending a job interview in the Lekki area of Lagos State. Asakwago, a resident of 58 Kikaru Kikeri Road, Elodie Apapa, Lagos, left home on January 25th, 2025 for a work interview and has not returned since. Speaking with The Guardian, her sister revealed that Nkiru's phone has been switched off and she has not been online. She emphasized that her sister has never been out of contact for this long. In quotes, "My sister is a private person. She only informed our other sister about the job interview, but didn't disclose the location. Later, she sent a message saying she got the job, that the company provides staff accommodation, and that she would be staying there. She added that the network in the area is poor. Since then, we've not heard from her or received any calls," she explained. "We reported the matter to the police, but they said they couldn't do much as she didn't provide an address. The family has requested anyone with useful information to contact them," and they give their details there. Efforts by The Guardian to reach the Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer were unsuccessful as he neither responded to WhatsApp messages nor answered calls. And that is the end of this article. And I just want to highlight a few things and learnings. Whenever you're going to a place that you've never been, especially a job interview, you should let someone know where you're going, especially if it's a place that you're not familiar with. And as you saw in some past videos, we talked about the time of day. If you're going to an interview in the evening hours, you may want to let someone know. You may even want to bring someone with you. I know you shouldn't do this on an interview normally, but if you're taking on an interview later in the evening, maybe it's at a warehouse or something, I wouldn't say that's as uncommon if it's maybe 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, right? But if you're taking an interview at 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. at night, that's very suspicious. That's one, not professional. Most people are not even working those hours. Now, say you are in a non-professional role that you're interviewing for, I would still say push for something earlier. And you have to do what makes sense for you, right? Now, I have once upon a time interviewed in the evening hours. I worked a full-time job and decided to take on a second job at Macy's. So I worked at a Macy's jewelry department, and I had taken on that job so that I could pay down my student loan debt and some other things that I needed to take care of for my mother. And so those hours were later in the evening, but I was also interviewing at a Macy's in the mall. So you do have to kind of weigh the location of the place, whether you're familiar with it, who you'll be meeting with, whether other people would be around, etc., etc. So I don't want you to be hesitant about every single job interview if it's after 5 p.m. However, you need to just think about the location. Now, if this had been an interview somewhere in a remote area of the town, at a warehouse or somewhere where I had no idea, would I have gone to that interview? Likely not. The other thing to consider here is that this seems very suspicious. So this sister gets a message, right? She informed the sister about the job and that the company provides staff accommodation. The only jobs that I am familiar with that would provide staff accommodation would be if you were a nanny. And I know nanny is, has different names to it. But if you were a live-in nanny, possibly, sure. Maybe if you were an RA, a resident assistant. Maybe if you were working in a leasing office and you had like a discount on rent or something of that nature, right? With this, I don't understand because there's no details about the job, right? And I can't imagine this woman would have just sent a text message telling her own sister, hey, I got this job opportunity. I will be living there, yada, yada. Of course not. If you gain a job, you have time to say goodbye, make preparations to make that move and transition. So personally, based on this article, I feel like this woman was just taken, and whoever took her, they sent out this message to her sister to cover their tracks. We saw in the last video about the guy, he was somewhere in Africa and he was kidnapped and forced to work, forced to scam. That's what the report told us. And so in a case like this, we've seen FBI records from the last video where there are reports of people going missing after job interviews because there are scams that happen where they're just trying to get you to interview, get you on site so that they can kidnap you. And yes, they will tell you you have the job. However, you really don't. There was no job, right? Now, I will say for most of us in the United States, at least, the focus of the scams are really to get information, maybe your social security number, right? Very personal information that people can do various things with and run frauds and things. Or, right, there are scams that will ask for money. Well, you need to pay to submit your application. You've been hired for this job. You just need to pay for your background check. And I will tell you right now, with the background check, if you've been hired for a role, that's something that the company takes on. They will take on that cost because oftentimes they will pay a premium to have a company like Accurate, for example, handle all of their background screenings. And then also they'll have a vendor for their drug screenings and whatnot. And so as a new hire, you're just a part of that process. They've already taken on that cost. That's just a cost of hiring for them, right? So that's very strange if you're ever asked that, hey, you need to pay for your own background test or background screen and drug tests. That's odd. I would want more information about that. You can ask about the provider. You can ask, give me more details about the cost, give me more details about the vendor that you're using. At least make these scammers work for their money. Please don't just cough up this cash because you're desperate for a job. And I get it. The job market is tough. That is why scammers have shifted to the job scams, because they see it as an easy way to get money. Because when you're desperate and when they can pressure you because there's a time commitment, you got to do this now while this job is available, that's an easy way to get people to cough up some cash. And so for the United States, it's typically about money and information. But you see in other countries, they have these scams where they are focusing on slave labor in various ways, right? For women, they may have the women doing a different type of work, different type of slavery. And for the article about the man that we saw so he was able to get away. In this case, I don't see any updates. Typically, if there are updates with these type of articles, they would be here or there would be links to the updated information. So I would assume that this woman is still missing, which is really sad. And she was 29 years old. This happened in February of this year. And you can see the date, so you know that I'm not lying here. February 6th, 2025. This was written by Eniola Daniel, and it is posted by The Guardian. So I'm going to close it out here. Hopefully you were able to listen to enough of the video to get this far to understand that I'm showing you different stories and accounts where someone is coming out to say, hey, someone went to a job interview and we haven't seen them since. This could be why we're seeing the story about the 17 missing people in Atlanta after a job interview. I personally think that someone caught a hold of an older story, right? And maybe this story, and they shared it and mixed up some facts, or they blended a couple of different stories together, and now people are just running with this story online, from people like Tasha K to Tisa Tells to all of these different TikTokers. And so I did want to follow the story. I wanted to share it because, whether it was true or not, I thought it was a great way to highlight that people in general need to be careful. And especially for younger people, they're typically the target. Now, 29, I would hope to be cautious with these things, but definitely teenagers, early 20s. I think that when you're first starting with the job process and recruiting process, you don't know, right? And so it can be easier for older people or folks that are more knowledgeable in this space, or maybe not as gullible, to say that y'all are stupid for falling for this stuff. But no, it can be difficult because, one, you really need a job. Oftentimes the people that are getting scammed are in a situation where they're pretty desperate. It can also be that you've just never been in the job market, and so you don't know what's new. You think, oh, well, now people are paying for this. Okay. Because there are some tools and things that you can use for job interviews that would require payment. You can pay a career coach. You can pay to get your resume written up. You can pay for an AI tool to do something for you. So that's all true. But when it comes to submitting applications and getting an offer that maybe you don't even recall that you applied to the job, when it comes to paying for something once you've been told that you have been hired, that's all wrong, right? That's all wrong. So please just take a second to think. If something sounds too good to be true, if there's a job paying $300,000 a year and you don't need a degree or any special skills or education, and you work from home, right? All the things that people would love in a job, it sounds too good to be true. So pause. I don't want to burst your bubble or kill your dreams, but just pause and think it through. And if there is something that seems too good to be true, think about it being a scam. With that, I'm going to close out here. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to y'all later.
You guys, please be careful. People are out here scamming big time for people who are looking for jobs. Let me just tell you what happened to me, okay? So I got an email yesterday that I had applied for some job. I don't even know which one because it didn't even say the title of the company in the email. But it said that they had closed the position, right? But my background, my resume is a good fit for another position that they have, right? So they want to set up an interview with me, a virtual interview. So I set it up for today, right? So I already got some type of feeling inside. Like it was like an intuition thing. Something just seemed off about the whole thing, okay? So, number one, they are like 6 minutes late on this interview. Red flag number one. When they start the interview, I'm noticing that my mic is mute, and I'm like, wait a minute, something's off here. There are like 400 people on this call. You tell me everybody was qualified for this job that you have in store for us? No, thank you. I hung up immediately. They crazy.